The congressional hearing room was thick with a suffocating tension, like the calm before a storm about to erupt. Jasmine Crockett, the sharp-witted Democratic congresswoman from Texas, entered with a silver USB in hand, holding damning evidence of President Trump using money and power to shield First Lady Melania's H-1B visa, all while he loudly preached anti-immigration. C-SPAN cameras flashed relentlessly, their red lights sharp as hawk eyes, capturing every step, every glance. Trump sat at the center, still wearing his smug smile, flanked by Marjorie Taylor Greene and Jim Jordan, their eyes predatory, whispering countermeasures. But Jasmine, with a cold, piercing gaze, didn't flinch, as if ready to tear through every lie. Outside the hall, the press clamored, "Miss Crockett, do you really have evidence about Melania?" Jasmine didn't answer, striding confidently, like a warrior entering battle. In her mind echoed a biting question. If you're so against immigration, why not start by deporting your wife, Mr. President? The unspoken words were like a fuse waiting to ignite and obliterate the deceit. The hearing room was so heavy that even the live microphones seemed to burn hotter than ever, chairs creaking under the weight of history. Trump, with the confidence of the powerful, glanced at Jasmine and whispered to Greene, "She's just bluffing." Greene hissed back. She wouldn't dare. But Jasmine was meticulously prepared. Her hand grazed the USB, like wielding a razor-sharp blade, ready to slice through the veil of lies. Cameras zoomed in. The media held their breath. A CNN producer whispered through an earpiece, "She's got the evidence. Get ready to go live." Jasmine sat down, her icy gaze locked on the president, silent but defiant, a sign of a storm about to sweep away every cover-up. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. The gavel struck, sharp, tearing through the fragile silence of the hearing room. The chair, voice low and dry, declared, "The hearing is now in session." All eyes turned to Donald Trump, who sat upright, hands clasped, his smile still plastered on like a well-rehearsed mask. Marjorie Taylor Greene, to his right, nodded at Jim Jordan, their eyes glinting with the confidence of seasoned victors. But the cold, unforgiving C-SPAN lights shone directly on Jasmine Crockett, who just placed the silver USB on the table, slowly, like an artist preparing for the decisive brushstroke. Jasmine stood, unhurried, every movement exuding absolute control. She didn't look at Trump, didn't look at the crowd, but stared straight into the camera, as if speaking to the entire nation. "I'm not here to play political games," she began, her voice low but sharp, like a honed blade. "I'm here to put the truth on the table, to show what's been hidden beneath the veneer of power." She pulled a stack of documents from her briefcase, plain white paper, black ink, unassuming, but their weight thickened the room's air. "This is an email from a defunct law firm, found in federal archives. It details a 2005 transaction, $1 million from Trump's campaign fund, funneled through a Delaware shell company, to handle Melania Trump's H-1B visa issue." The hearing room fell silent, only the hum of cameras and the sharp breaths of a few aides audible. Trump leaned back, waving a hand, his tone condescending. "She's dragging out more garbage from the left-wing media, all fabricated." But his voice lacked its usual certainty, a tiny crack audible to those listening closely. Marjorie Taylor Greene smirked, whispering to Jordan, "She's putting on a show." But Jordan didn't respond, his eyes fixed on Jasmine, as if sensing something shifting. Jasmine didn't blink. She presented a forensic report, red ink on white paper, like indelible bloodstains. "This is an independent analysis from a Virginia data lab," she said, voice steady, like delivering a verdict. "Timestamps, encryption, chain of custody, all intact. No edits, no forgeries. $1 million from campaign funds didn't go to ads or rallies. It went to a shell company, and from there, to an account tied to keeping Melania in the U.S. She paused, letting the words sink in, then continued, "Mr. Trump, what do you call this? A gift to an immigrant, or a deal to cover up a legal violation?" Murmurs erupted in the gallery. A few reporters scribbled furiously, pens racing across paper. Trump laughed, but the sound was hollow, like thin glass cracking. "You think you're clever, Congresswoman? This is a circus, a cheap performance." He turned to the chair. "Are we letting a girl from Texas smear the president?" But the chair, glasses low on his nose, only replied, "Mr. Trump, let Congresswoman Crockett continue." Jasmine didn't get drawn into Trump's taunts. She flipped to another document, her voice calm but cutting like a scalpel. This wasn't a one-time thing. We have records from 2006. Another transfer, $500,000, through the same shell company, listed as legal consulting. But no lawyer was hired. The money went straight to a charity where Melania was a board member. She looked directly at Trump. For the first time in the hearing. You built an empire on lies, but numbers don't lie. Trump clenched his fists, knuckles whitening. Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to interject, her voice shrill. This is slander, no evidence. But Jasmine didn't waver. She displayed a chart on the screen, money flowing from campaign funds through shell companies, ending at an offshore account. This is the money's footprint, she said, her voice hammering each word. And this footprint leads straight to Trump's door. A reporter in the back whispered into a mic. She just landed a knockout blow. The room buzzed, like a disturbed hive. Trump shook his head, trying to stay composed, but sweat glistened on his brow, betraying him. She's got nothing but papers and empty words, he roared, but his voice faltered, as if he no longer believed his own words. Jasmine didn't stop. She quoted a famous actor who once condemned Trump. He thinks he can manipulate society, but the truth doesn't need his permission. The words, sharp as a blade, sliced through Trump's confident facade. She continued, you call immigrants a threat, but you used American taxpayers' money to protect the immigrant closest to you. That's the truth, Mr. Trump.
And this truth won't vanish just because you shout louder.
The chair struck the gavel, demanding order, but the murmurs didn't stop. One of Trump's aides scribbled notes, face pale. Jordan bowed his head, flipping through papers, pretending to be busy. Greene whispered something, but her voice faded, as if she felt the ground shifting. Jasmine sat down, hands still on the USB, eyes never leaving Trump. She hadn't delivered the final blow, but the room already felt its weight. A CNN producer, through an earpiece, whispered, she's burning it all down, and this is just the start. The hearing room was no longer a place for debate. It had become an arena, and Jasmine Crockett had just stepped onto the stage with the sharpest weapon, the truth. Trump, still seated, began to feel his throne of power wobble, but she wasn't done. The large screen behind Jasmine Crockett lit up, a pale blue glow casting light on the frozen faces in the hearing room. Static crackled, then a frame appeared, blurry but painfully clear. A Mar-a-Lago gala, golden lights lavish, soft jazz weaving through velvet curtains. Donald Trump, younger, more confident, stood amid the crowd, a sparkling wine glass in hand. Beside him was Melania, in a glittering gown, her eyes cold, expressionless, but the frame's focus wasn't on them. It was a girl, about 16, in a delicate white dress, her high heels making her stumble. She stood near a middle-aged man, later identified as a donor, linked to a human trafficking network. Trump leaned in, whispering something to her. The girl smiled, but it was crooked, forced. Then she stepped out of the frame, vanishing into the shadows. The hearing room was deathly silent, as if no one dared breathe. Jasmine stood by the hearing table, hand lightly on the podium, eyes fixed on the screen. This is 2005, she said, voice slow, each word a hammer on stone. A charity event, but there was nothing charitable here. That girl, Mia, was 16. After that night, her family never saw her again. Her words were a stone dropped into a still lake, sending ripples of horror. A scream tore through the room. That's my daughter. A woman, about 50, leapt from the audience, clutching a worn photo. Mia, she was in that white dress, just like in the video. She disappeared that night. Her voice shattered, like glass on a stone floor. The crowd turned, eyes wide, hands over mouths. One of Marjorie Taylor Greene's aides bowed their head, gripping their chair. Jim Jordan looked aside, as if escaping the mother's gaze. Trump at the center was still, but his hand trembled, the water glass in front of him rippling. Jasmine left the podium, walking into the gallery, unhurried, not dramatic, just certain of her purpose. She stopped before the woman, pulling a tissue from her pocket, offering it with wordless gentleness. You're not alone, she said, voice low but firm, like a promise carved in stone. The mother took the tissue, hands shaking, eyes wet but not crying. Thank you, she whispered, as if for the first time in decades, someone truly listened. The C-SPAN camera panned slightly, capturing the moment. But the lights couldn't hide the truth being exposed. Jasmine returned to the podium, her gaze sweeping the room, landing on Trump. "You call this fake," she said, voice sharp as a surgical blade. "But these people, these stories, aren't CGI. They're real, and they're reclaiming their voices." She pressed a button, the screen switching to another document, a 2005 non-disclosure agreement, signed by an event staffer, with Trump's signature in the corner. This contract demanded silence about incidents at the gala, but no one can silence the truth forever. Trump shot up, his chair screeching on the wood floor. "Enough," he roared, face flushed, sweat gleaming on his brow. "This is a filthy performance, a conspiracy by the media and haters. That video is fake, staged to smear me." His voice cracked, no longer confident, but the shout of a man cornered. Marjorie Taylor Greene grabbed his arm, whispering, "Sit down, don't let her win." But Trump swatted her hand away, pointing at Jasmine. "You'll regret this. You don't know who you're messing with." Jasmine didn't blink. "I know exactly who I'm facing," she replied, voice even, like a judge delivering a verdict. "A man who thinks power can buy silence. But today, that silence has expired." Her words were a final blade, cutting through Trump's last layer. He turned, storming toward the door, each step like fleeing his own shadow on the screen. The door slammed, a confession without words. Cameras captured it, the audience held their breath, and a reporter whispered into a mic, "He just ran. She did it." Marjorie Taylor Greene stood, trying to salvage the moment. "This is a farce," she shrieked, voice shrill. "That video is Hollywood nonsense, nothing more." But her voice wavered, and the room didn't respond. Jim Jordan flipped through papers, pretending to be busy, but his eyes avoided the screen, where Trump and Mia's image lingered like a haunting ghost. The chair struck the gavel, demanding order, but the murmurs spread like wildfire. Jasmine stood still, hand on the podium, her gaze sweeping the room, not for applause, but to remember. She looked at the mother, now seated, still clutching Mia's photo. "That girl," Jasmine said, voice low but resonant, "wasn't just a face on a screen. She's why we're here, and she's not the only one." She pointed to the USB, as if it held hundreds more stories, waiting to be told. One of Trump's aides rushed after him, papers scattering on the floor. Greene whispered to Jordan, "We need a statement now. We have to kill this." But her voice trembled, as if she knew the fire was too big. Outside the hall, the press swarmed, mics raised, cameras flashing like lightning. A CNN producer whispered through an earpiece, "This isn't just a hearing, it's a revolution." Jasmine didn't leave the podium immediately. She stood there, like a lighthouse in a storm. The screen behind her still showed the NDA, Trump's signature like an indelible scar. The room, though noisy, felt the weight of the moment. Trump was gone, but his shadow remained, exposed by the light of truth Jasmine had ignited. The slam of the hearing room door behind Donald Trump still echoed, like a hammer striking the silent space. But outside, the world was no longer quiet. Phone screens across America lit up, from coffee shops in Dallas to street corners in New York. The Mar-a-Lago gala video, with Trump whispering to Mia and Melania's cold gaze, spread like wildfire on dry grass. The hashtag #DeportYourWife exploded on social media, garnering millions of shares in hours. Jasmine's unspoken words, hinted at by her piercing look during the hearing, "He calls for deporting immigrants, but shields his wife with money and power," became the rallying cry of a public storm. On social media, one account wrote, "Trump wants to build a wall, but used taxpayer money to keep Melania in America." Yo. Another reposted the moment the mother screamed about Mia, captioned, "Jasmine Crockett just showed the nation the truth. Hull still dares call her TikTok lawyers." In group chats, mothers shared Mia's story, voices choking in voice notes. A young woman in Chicago posted a video, eyes red, "Mia could be any of us. Jasmine is our voice." Overnight, #JasmineTruth overtook #DeportYourWife, becoming the symbol of a larger fight. The media split like a seismic crack. Fox News aired a segment, a blonde host shouting, "Shade. This is a cheap political stunt. That video is AI generated, a hoax to take down the president." But even their loyal viewers wavered. A comment on their live stream read, "If it's fake, why did Trump run?" CNN and MSNBC, meanwhile, looped the video, bringing in legal experts to dissect the NDA and Trump's campaign fund transactions. a former Trump campaign staffer, face hidden, spoke on CNN, voice trembling. I saw those payments, not for ads, not for rallies. They went to places no one dared question. In the hearing room, the air remained charged, though Trump was gone. Marjorie Taylor Greene stood, slamming the table, trying to regain control. This is a witch hunt, she yelled, face flushed. Crockett's exploiting a missing girl for fame. But the room didn't respond. A few Democratic Congress members clapped, not for Jasmine, but for the truth being exposed. Jim Jordan, usually sharp, sat silent, eyes fixed on the table, as if counting seconds to escape this nightmare. Outside the hall, reporters swarmed like sharks smelling blood. Microphones raised. Flashes blinked. Shouts rang out. What will Congresswoman Crockett say next? A CNN reporter whispered into an earpiece. This isn't just a hearing. It's a revolution. Live. On a large screen in a Washington, D.C. plaza, the video replayed. With a ticker. Congresswoman Crockett exposes Trump's financial deals. Crowds gathered. Some holding signs. Say her name, Mia. Another wielded a board painted red. Deport your wife. Justice for immigrants. Jasmine, still in the hearing room, sat calmly, hands folded on the table. She didn't look at the screens, didn't read the trending tweets, but she knew. She felt the weight of millions of eyes watching, not just in America, but worldwide. An aide leaned in, whispering, Congresswoman, CNN wants an interview now. MSNBC too. They're calling this historic. Jasmine shook her head slightly. Not yet, she said, voice low as stone. I'm not here to go on air. I'm here so people like Mia are heard. Online, a new wave emerged. Other victims, once silenced by NDAs, began speaking out. A woman in Florida posted, I signed an NDA with someone working for Trump. They paid me $50,000 to stay quiet about that night. Today, I break it. The post was shared thousands of times, tagged #JasmineTruth. A group of women in New York held a small rally, holding photos of missing girls, live streaming with the message. Jasmine opened the door. Now we walk through. But not everyone stood with her. Trump supporters gathered outside the Capitol, holding signs. Crockett lies. A prominent account, self-proclaimed patriot, posted a spliced video calling Jasmine a witch hunter and the gala video a Hollywood hoax. But these efforts were quickly drowned out. A 15-second clip of Trump fleeing the hearing room was shared over 10 million times. Comments below. He couldn't deny it. Jasmine won. In an Atlanta bar, a group of young friends watched the gala video on TV. One said, she's not just fighting Trump. She's fighting the system that's been covering for him. Another nodded. She's the spark, and that system is dry grass. In Dallas, Jasmine's hometown, high school students painted a mural of her holding the USB with the words, truth is the weapon. Jasmine, in the hearing room, felt this wave. Though she didn't touch her phone, an aide handed her a note with stats. #Deport. Your wife was trending globally. She smiled, not for victory, but for the power of truth. They think I'll stop, she whispered to herself, hand touching a new envelope of documents on the table. But this is just the beginning. The storm of public opinion raged outside, but in Jasmine Crockett's small Dallas office, the air was stiflingly quiet. A neon desk lamp flickered, illuminating stacks of documents piled like a fortress. A torn envelope lay alone on the desk, containing a single brass bullet. No note, just a silent threat. That morning, her office's glass door was smashed, red paint spelling out, traitor. Her phone buzzed incessantly, anonymous calls leaving voicemails with growling voices. You've gone too far, you'll see. A raspy male voice whispered, Crockett, you won't get away. Her staffer, a young woman named Maya, stood in the corner, clutching a briefcase, eyes red. Congresswoman, please stop. Just for a day, she said, voice trembling on the verge of breaking. They know where I live. Someone photographed my front door last night. Jasmine looked at her, not with anger, but with the resolve of someone who'd faced darkness and walked through it. Maya, she said, voice low but warm, like a small flame in a cold night. They want us scared, but if we stop, girls like Mia will be forgotten forever. Jasmine stood, walking to the window, looking down at the street, where car lights streaked like hurried comets. She recalled a night 10 years ago, in a Texas courtroom. A 15-year-old girl, ponytail tight, stood before a judge, recounting a man who promised Hollywood, but locked her in a rundown apartment. The system called her a liar. Jasmine, then a public defender, fought to have her recognized as a victim. But the sentence was a mere slap on the wrist for the perpetrator. That girl, Lily, looked at her with tear-filled eyes. "You're the only one who believed me." Those words, like a scar, were etched in Jasmine's mind. She turned back, pulling a crumpled letter from her desk drawer, sent by Mia's mother. The shaky handwriting, blue ink smudged. "Thank you for giving my daughter a voice." I thought the world had swallowed her. Jasmine gripped the letter, as if it were a torch lighting her path. "They think threats will silence me," she said to Maya. Voice not loud, but solid as granite. "But I've seen what silence does. It kills the truth, and I won't let that happen." Her phone buzzed again. An anonymous text. "Crockett, you'll pay." She set the phone down. No reply. No blink. Another staffer, James, entered, holding a security report. "Police suggest 24/7 protection. Congresswoman, they're worried for your safety." Jasmine shook her head. "I don't need protection from them," she said, eyes staring into the void, as if seeing nameless faces. "I need to protect the truth from those who want to bury it." Outside, the storm wasn't just online. Protesters gathered at her office, some holding supportive signs. "Jasmine, we're here for you," but others, faces masked, shouted, "Crockett, go home." A glass bottle shattered on the sidewalk, shards glinting under streetlights. Maya shuddered, but Jasmine only smiled faintly, not out of arrogance, but because she knew each broken shard was a sign. Her truth was shaking the foundations of power. She sat, opened her laptop, and read a new tweet from a California activist. Jasmine Crockett isn't just fighting Trump. She's fighting the system that's protected him too long. A smile flickered on her lips, then faded. She wasn't here for praise. She was here to ensure girls like Maya, like Lily, weren't swallowed by the system again. A call from CNN came, the producer's voice urgent. "Congresswoman, we want you on tonight. The nation's waiting." Jasmine declined, voice soft but firm. "I don't speak for cameras. I speak for those who've never been heard." She closed the laptop, her gaze returning to Mia's mother's letter. "They can threaten me," she whispered, as if to herself, "but they can't threaten the truth." The storm outside roared, but in this small office, Jasmine was the eye of calm. She picked up a pen, writing in her notebook. Mia, Lily, and those yet unnamed. It wasn't just a reminder, but a vow. She stood, pulling a new envelope of documents from a drawer, her eyes flashing with unshakable resolve. The system had tried to bury the truth, but Jasmine Crockett, with every step, every breath, was unearthing it, and she wouldn't stop until every eye faced it. Under Washington, D.C.'s fading sunset, the streets around the Capitol began to glow with the light of signs. A group of women, from mothers to young girls, gathered at the stone steps, raising handwritten placards. "Truth won't be silenced," and "Mia, we won't forget." From the ashes of the hearing, a new movement had sprouted, named Voices Unsealed. Voices no longer bound. Not a raging fire, but a quiet river, carrying thousands of stories once buried by NDAs and power. Jasmine Crockett wasn't among the crowd. She sat in her office, the laptop screen's glow illuminating her tired but unflinching face. On the desk, a stack of letters from strangers piled high, each one a piece of forgotten lives. A woman from Ohio wrote, "I signed an NDA with someone working for Trump. They paid me to stay silent about a night in Palm Beach. Today, I want to speak." A 19-year-old girl from Atlanta emailed, "You're why I dare to talk about what happened to me. Mia is my sister, even though I never met her." Jasmine read each line, pen gripped tightly, as if recording not just their stories, but their souls. The Voices Unsealed movement didn't start with a grand plan. It began at a small meeting in a Chicago church, where 10 women, once victims of silence contracts, sat around a wooden table, sharing their stories. A week later, that number grew to 30 in Atlanta, then hundreds in other cities. They didn't just talk, they organized. A hotline was set up, offering free legal support. A scholarship fund named after Mia was born, helping young girls escape cycles of abuse. On social media, the movement's official account posted, "Voices Unsealed is not just a name, it's a promise. No one will be forgotten." Again, the post was shared over 50,000 times in a day. In Congress, the fire Jasmine ignited had spread to the halls of power. Congressman Jaime Raskin, with a sharp gaze and resolute voice, stood before a group of reporters, holding a thick stack of documents. "We're proposing the Jasmine Transparency Act," he declared, his voice ringing like a bell in the marble hall. "This bill demands all campaign-related financial transactions be disclosed within 5 years. No more room for shell companies. No more room for secrets bought with money." Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, standing beside him, added, "This isn't just a law, it's justice for people like Mia." The phrase Jasmine Transparency Act quickly trended on social media, with the hashtag #TransparencyNow. In Dallas, a 17-year-old girl named Aaliyah stood before a newly finished mural depicting Jasmine holding a microphone, her gaze resolute, with the words, "Our voices are our strength." Inspired by the hearing, Aaliyah organized a memorial for Mia at a local park. Dozens attended, each holding a candle, carving Mia's name onto a temporary wooden plaque. "She's not just a name," Aaliyah said, her voice trembling but strong through a megaphone. "She's why we must keep going." The image, captured by a local news station, spread nationwide, a reminder that justice doesn't just live in hearing rooms, but in every heart that dares to speak. Jasmine, in her office, received a call from Cory Booker, his voice thick with emotion. "You've done what this Congress rarely sees. You've awakened a nation." She smiled faintly, not for the praise, but because she knew the movement was bigger than her. She opened a new email from a volunteer lawyer in California, helping a group of women break NDAs tied to Trump's events. "We found 3 more contracts," the email read. "They're ready to go to court, thanks to you." Jasmine nodded, as if speaking to those women through the screen. "I hear you." Outside, the movement wasn't just words. In New York, a group of young lawyers formed a legal team, analyzing financial records from Trump's campaign to his charities. A law student in Georgia posted on X, "I read 500 pages of financial records last night." Jasmine opened the door, and we're walking through. The post was retweeted thousands of times, tagged #VoicesUnsealed. In Los Angeles, a fundraiser concert for the movement drew hundreds, with a new song, Mia's voice, ringing under the night sky. Jasmine closed her laptop, stood, and walked to the window. The city lights twinkled, but she didn't see them. She looked into the darkness, where untold stories still waited. Her hand touched Mia's mother's letter, now pinned to a bulletin board, a reminder. "They think I'll stop," she whispered, not to anyone, but to herself. "But every voice I help free is a victory." She turned back to the desk, opened a new envelope of documents, her eyes alight with an unquenchable fire. Voices Unsealed wasn't just a movement, it was a declaration of war on silence. In the flickering light of a Fox News studio, Donald Trump sat on a leather chair, his eyes struggling to regain their trademark confidence. Cameras rolled, studio lights blazed, but sweat glistened on his forehead like an unspoken confession. The host, with a tense smile, asked, "Mr. Trump, regarding the video and Congresswoman Crockett's allegations, how do you respond?" Trump leaned forward, hand waving, voice trying to sound dismissive. "This whole thing is a hoax, cooked up by the liberal media and jealous haters. That video, a fake edited to smear me." But his voice faltered, like an out-of-tune piano, and viewers at home noticed he was no longer steering the narrative. Outside, Marjorie Taylor Greene stood before a crowd of supporters outside the Capitol, her voice shrill through a microphone. "Jasmine Crockett is a liar. She's using cheap tricks to attack a patriot." She held up her phone, live streaming, posting a clip calling the Mar-a-Lago gala video Hollywood CGI. But the crowd didn't respond as before. Some shook their heads, whispering, "If it's fake, why did he run?" Greene's post got thousands of comments, but most mocked her. "You can't hide the truth, Marjorie. Jasmine truth." Meanwhile, a new witness emerged, shaking Trump's counteroffensive. A retired accountant from Trump's campaign sent a set of documents to Jasmine's office through an intermediary lawyer. Verified by an independent auditing firm, they revealed 3 more transactions from Trump's campaign funds to other shell companies, totaling $2.5 million, listed as consulting fees with no transparent contracts. One transaction tied directly to a charity where Melania was a board member. CNN broke the news with a ticker, New evidence bolsters Congresswoman Crockett's allegations, an MSNBC legal analyst remarked. This isn't just a scandal, it's a network of illicit finance. In a closed meeting of Trump's team, the air was heavy, like a courtroom before a verdict. His lawyers, faces weary, flipped through pages, searching for loopholes to counter. One whispered, "We can't deny everything. His signature's all over it." Another voice, urgent, suggested blame the old advisors, say he didn't know about these transactions. But Trump, at the head of the table, stayed silent, hands gripping the chair, eyes vacant like a man who'd lost his crown. On social media, the #Deport Your Wife wave surged, now carrying a new meaning, not just mocking Trump, but demanding justice for those hurt by his system. A post from a Florida activist read, "Trump calls immigrants criminals, but used money to protect his wife. Jasmine showed us the truth." #Voices Unsealed. It was shared over 100,000 times, paired with the Dallas mural of Jasmine and the words, "Our voices are our strength." Jasmine, in her small office, ignored the praise. She sat at her desk, the neon light illuminating a new, unopened envelope of documents. Inside was a transcript from a former charity employee tied to Melania, revealing she knew about the shady transactions, but chose silence. Jasmine didn't rush to open it. She knew its weight and wanted the perfect moment to strike. An aide entered, voice anxious. "Congresswoman, Trump's team is planning a press conference. They say they'll sue every network that aired the gala video." Jasmine nodded, eyes fixed on the envelope. "They can sue," she said, voice soft but sharp as steel. "But they can't sue the truth." On the streets, the Voices Unsealed movement grew. A group of women in Miami held a press conference, publicly breaking their NDAs. One, voice trembling but firm, spoke into a microphone. "I was scared, but Jasmine Crockett gave me courage." The image spread online, a new breeze sweeping the nation. In Washington, D.C., law students gathered in a library, analyzing Trump's financial records, emailing Jasmine's office. "We found another transaction. You need to see this." Trump, in a lavish hotel room, watched TV with a darkened face. A CNN clip replayed him fleeing the hearing, with commentary. "Trump can't deny Congresswoman Crockett's evidence." He shut off the TV, throwing the remote, but the room's silence couldn't hide the truth. He was losing control. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene, usually aggressive, went quiet, posting nothing after her last post was drowned in pro-Jasmine comments. Under a gray sky, light rain fell on the Capitol's stone steps, where Jasmine Crockett stood. No umbrella, no coat, her navy suit soaked. TV truck lights flashed, but she didn't look. Reporters swarmed, microphones raised, but she didn't speak right away. Her gaze quietly scanned the strangers' faces, as if searching for a nameless figure, perhaps Mia or other unnamed girls. In her hand, a new, unopened envelope, like an unfulfilled promise. The Oversight Committee had just concluded a meeting, with a decision that shook the halls of power, a formal federal investigation into Donald Trump's financial transactions, from campaign funds to shell companies tied to Melania. In the now empty meeting room, the electronic board showed the vote, 18 for 10 against. A Democratic congressman whispered to a colleague, "Crockett did it. She changed the game." But Jasmine wasn't there to hear the praise. She'd left the room, stepping outside, letting the rain wash away the long days of battle. Before the crowd, she finally spoke, voice low but resonant, like waves on stone. "We're not here for personal victories," she said, gripping the envelope. "We're here to ensure people like Mia, abandoned by the system, are remembered. The truth isn't a spotlight. It's a candle that burns forever, even in the dark." Her words, plain but piercing, touched every heart in the crowd. A woman raised a sign, "Mia, we see you." On social media, hashtags dominated, now with a new tone, not just accusing Trump, but calling for change. A Texas activist posted, "Jasmine Crockett didn't just take down Trump. She showed us one voice can topple an empire." A video of Jasmine in the rain went viral, viewed millions of times, with comments, "She's the candle in the dark." Meanwhile, in Mar-a-Lago, Trump sat alone in his office, the TV off. His once bold advisors avoided his gaze. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who vowed to fight back, stopped posting on X. A Trump lawyer whispered on the phone, "We can't stop the investigation. Too much evidence." Trump, for the first time, didn't respond, staring out the window at Florida's gray sky, mirroring his mood. Jasmine didn't know of Trump's silence, nor did she need to. She walked down the steps, rain streaming down her face, unwiped. A 17-year-old girl ran up, handing her a laminated photo of Mia. "Thank you," the girl said, eyes bright despite the rain. Jasmine took the photo, nodded silently, her gaze a pledge. The fight wasn't over. In a small Dallas park, the mural of Jasmine was complete, with the words, "Our voices are our strength." Students gathered, placing flowers beneath it, a wordless tribute. In Washington, Mia's name was carved on a temporary memorial plaque, alongside other victims of silence. The Voices Unsealed movement spread, with chapters in 30 states, each a new candle. Jasmine walked, a small figure in the rain, each step etched in history. She needed no lights, no microphone. The truth, as she said, was a candle that burned forever. And that candle was now lighting a nation. A sign left on the steps, in black ink. "Mia, we remember you." Jasmine had won, not by defeating one man, but by restoring voices to those never heard. The story, Deport Your Wife. Trump goes nuts. After Jasmine Crockett destroys him on live TV, reflects a deeply polarized America, where truth is often buried by power and social media, becomes a battlefield for justice. Through Jasmine Crockett's journey, from exposing shady financial deals tied to Melania Trump's H-1B visa, to the Mar-a-Lago gala video revealing Trump's ties to illicit activities, and the birth of the Voices Unsealed movement, the story paints a reality. Silence in the face of injustice is complicity, and one person's voice can change the system. Jasmine standing in the rain, refusing protection amid threats, and her victory through a federal investigation show the power of resolve and civic duty. In today's America, amid debates on immigration, financial transparency, and women's rights, this story reminds us justice isn't automatic. The lesson: dare to speak truth, even against threats or criticism, as Jasmine did against Trump. Every American can apply this by joining movements like Voices Unsealed or supporting transparency laws like the Jasmine Transparency Act. Use social media, as #DeportYourWife spread, to amplify the forgotten, like Mia. Don't wait for others. Change starts with small steps, like Aaliyah's memorial for Mia, for a just society exists only when we refuse silence. Subscribe to the channel to keep amplifying the truth, as Jasmine Crockett did for Mia and the forgotten. Thank you for joining us, and see you in the next video to continue the fight for justice.